Good morning, everybody, and welcome to Coffee and Football, presented by Rick Vavro and Austin Underground. I'm your host, Blake Monroe, where I'm joined every morning by Bobby Burton and Jerry Hamilton. Be sure to tell us where you're checking in from, tell us what you're drinking, and then get your questions in. We'll get to those here in a little bit. But first, let's talk the news of the day as the thunder starts going.
You got some bad weather headed to Comanche there, Blake.
Took me off guard there for a second.
Blake sent the radar to us, and I was like, oof. Yeah, Blake may have power for about 10 more minutes.
Yeah, we'll see what happens. But what's the latest in recruiting, Jerry?
Well, I mentioned yesterday that some of the Texas staff members would be on the road headed west, and there would be some starting to head east into the southeast region states. But Kyle Flood was in Arizona yesterday and made a few stops. And he ended up offering 2 offensive linemen. And we're going to play Aaron Thomas first, because Aaron Thomas is a 2026 offensive tackle from the same high school that Christian Clark played out, Mountain Point. But this Aaron Thomas, one of the up-and-coming 2026 offensive tackles. And there's some layers to this I want to get into. His father played at Florida State, where he'll make an official visit June 6th. He also has Texas A&M on the 20th, couple of others. Schedules. He's already officially visited Washington. But he's a guy who's had picked up some offers of late, and is a guy that's kind of picked up steam after that junior season, really headed in the spring of junior season. But it's an interesting offer because it makes some sense, okay, on 2 levels for me. One, kid's got good feet. He's a lot of upside. But 2, and that doesn't mean Texas is going to push for him yet. Here's the thing. Cody Green's off the board. He flipped from Oregon to Washington, and he's done. Kenyi Pepe decided to go back home. He's originally from Los Angeles. His mom's health is not good. He goes to IMG. He's going to go back home for college to USC. So you lost a couple of the guys you were in on that are really good players. And then people have been asking, well, why would you offer these guys? There's Turntine, there's Ojo. None of these guys are in the boat yet. Texas may feel good about where they stand with a Turntine, a Ojo, a Roseboro, but these processes are going to play out for a while. Most of these recruitments should play out through July or early August. And then you have Malachi Lee. I think Kyle Flood's going out to Hawaii to see him. He's going to officially visit. Sam Utu out in Orange, Lutheran. All those guys are on the board. All those guys have official visits scheduled, but Texas has lost 2 offensive tackle prospects that committed earlier than expected for various reasons, as I pointed out. So they have to, Bobby, continue to evaluate right now while they're guys that they may lead on or their top targets remain uncommitted. You got to keep looking at guys. Then in 2027, they offered the stud offensive tackle Jake Hildebrand out of Basha High in Chandler, and Noah Roberts, the 2027 4-star running back out of the same high school. Kenny Baker extended a 2027 D-line offer to one of the best in the Southeast region over at Hueytown in Alabama, Hueytown High, home of Jameis Winston, obviously, who came through there. But, Bobby, you have to keep evaluating these 2026 kids for multiple reasons. 1, so you make sure you sign the best players you can. And 2, because these guys aren't in the boat yet, and they're still recruiting to be done on your top targets.
Yeah, I had a couple different thoughts here, Jerry. First of all, 3 offers in the state of Arizona.
Yeah.
Correct? And on a single day. This young man, Andrew Thomas, the offensive lineman, as well as a couple 2027s, right? Then the other thought process I had around the offensive line board as a whole is the thoroughness with which Kyle Flood kind of goes about his business, in all due respect to everybody. I mean, Texas has 45 official visitors. Roughly 10 of those are going to be offensive linemen at this point, maybe 8 if you take the other 2 off the board. But that gives you a sense of, Kyle Flood wants to get a good class, period. And
Yes.
You win up front. And so I have no problem with this going on right now as far as the offensive line. The other piece is more of what you talked about when guys get out on the road. They find guys and kind of look at guys in person and say, okay, he is big enough. Because what you don't want to do is a guy says he's 6'4" and you show up and he's 6'2".
Yeah.
Right. And so unless you've seen him in person, That's where some of these in-person offers and evaluations take place. It's not that their film didn't check out, because a lot of times their film, I mean, we're watching him here, his film checks out. It's not that. It's whether or not they actually see him and he's 6'4" as opposed to, I don't know, 6'1 and a half, 6'2", right, Jerry?
Yeah.
I see that being a natural thing, but the biggest piece to me, obviously, is the thoroughness with which they're trying to do their job. That's how you get that's how you don't go to the 14th best offensive lineman in the state late in the process, like Texas did under Tom Herman.
Yeah.
You go out and get on guys early enough, and you're thorough enough in your evaluation that you get on the right guys so that you don't have to go back down the list like that. So that's a good thing for me.
Absolutely. And then I want to add, for those of you that aren't on TexasFootball.com, and you should be, or didn't see the live stream Talking Ball last night, we had Nick Townsen on there, by the way. If you missed that, go back and watch Nick Townsen interview from Talking Ball last night. He's just a great, fun interview, very confident kid. And I think his mind's in the right place, headed to a big-time college football program, and how he knows he has to go about it to accomplish big things in the future. Also one of the rare guys that gained 10 pounds during track season and still walked away with a gold medal. I mean, he was running the 4x200 meters at 240 pounds. But during that live stream last night, I also mentioned the update on Derek Cooper out of Chaminade Madonna, the 5-star running back. I talked to a source close to that recruitment yesterday evening, right before we went on air, and I posted more notes on that on Texas Football. There's a little discussion thread with that as well. But had a great visit, like home run visit. He was his mom and stepdad attended the visit with him. It was a multi-day visit. This source said, no doubt Texas is getting the June official visit. We know Sark wants weekend official visits. That's what he really tried. He doesn't love the midweeks. He likes to get families there for the full weekend experience with other families, recruits. Obviously, maybe when some players' parents come in town and help that recruiting process that are part of some visit weekends from time to time. So we'll see. He's got a full visit schedule right now as far as the weekends. We'll see if something gets shuffled. I think it's a possibility, not guaranteeing it, but he's definitely going to make a June official visit. Had great discussions with Steve Sarkisian, Chad Scott. Big kid. I said that on on one of our shows that CJ and I did after seeing Derek Cooper in person, passed the eye test every bit as big as expected, 6'1.5", probably 205. I think he ran in the 10.7s this year at 200 plus pounds on the track, and doesn't really train for track, but had a great visit. I think both family members thought a lot of the University of Texas, the program, the city of Austin, everything that can kind of be packaged together for a student athlete at the University of Texas and in Austin. So the source told me Texas is right there swinging with Georgia, Miami, maybe Ohio State. So Texas made up the ground they needed to. They have a legitimate shot. That's all you can ask for heading into the June visits. That's why the staff battles hard to get these kids on campus. Because if they do, and same thing happened with Justice Fitzpatrick, even though Justice Fitzpatrick out of STA, St. Thomas Aquinas, Minka Fitzpatrick's little brother, even though he already had a June 13th OV set, that April midweek unofficial visit with his mom and a couple of family members ensured that Texas is right there battling Georgia, Miami, and a couple of Alabama for Justice Fitzpatrick. So Texas had a really strong month of April, getting kids on campus for the first time. Look, they did this with Jamie French, Myron Charles, Josiah Sharma, a few others last year. They're doing the same thing in this class. They're not going to win them all, but what they are doing is putting themselves in position to where they're truly in the fight. And then you see where the chips fall, Bobby, and you know they're going to sign 20, 24, 25 guys, and it's going to be a top 5 level class.
And then those are the bluest of the blue chips, Jerry.
Yeah.
So when you start talking about Derek Cooper and Justice Fitzpatrick, et cetera, you're talking about guys that are potential difference makers on a football field. So those can mean a little bit more, I guess. I also want to come back to talk about the Nick Townsen interview in a minute, Jerry. But before that, I need to say thank you to our sponsor this morning. Since 2004, Austin Underground has specialized in difficult underground commercial installations. The team's engineering background gives Austin Underground the ability to perform work other firms often consider just too risky. Rick Vavro and his team offer an end-to-end client experience, including seamless communication, budgeting, staffing, and top-notch trade partners. And most importantly, they produce solid quality work each and every time. That's Austin Underground. All those buildings you see downtown, there's work being done underneath. That's Austin Underground. Also want to say thank you to his sister company, Texas Road. If you have quality road work that needs to be done, including subdivisions, large projects, make sure you give Texas Road a call as well. Again, that engineering background that Rick and his team have really pay dividends. Jerry, Nick Townsen last night, in that discussion that we had, in my opinion, was very interesting to me because I came out of there last night and started thinking about it. My wife was listening in, and she made a point that I was feeling and thinking about, and we actually talked about a little on air, and that's that. How many kids, when we asked Nick Townsen the question last night, who were you most impressed with of all the freshmen? Okay. He answered Emery Winston. Okay. How many kids would have I don't want to say stones, but the confidence to say the guy I'm going to compete with was really impressive to me.
Yeah.
I mean, when he said that, I literally went, this kid's cut a little different.
Yeah.
Because you would have thought, he could have easily said, I don't know, Lance Jackson or Justice Terry, or
not giving somebody he's going to compete with any credit.
But he said Emery Winston. And he said, oh, well, that's just going to make us both better.
Yeah.
And when he said that last night, I did a kind of double take because I don't know. I got to be honest, Jerry. Like, if you're a receiver, let me ask you this. If one of those four receivers, Dalen McCutcheon or Michael Terry, or they get asked, who's the most impressive freshman to you? You think they're going to say one of the other wide receivers? Or are they going to say, oh, KJ Lacey, or,
Right.
I mean,
it's rare. It's very rare.
I'm not saying to put those guys in a bad spot at
right.
all. I'm just saying that's how unique that answer.
Well, Bobby, we've had 30 players on this show over the last couple of years that committed to Texas, probably 60 interviews, because sometimes we interview these guys 2 or 3 times. That may be the first time somebody said that, to your point. It's very rare. And he didn't play on he played on a good high school team, not one of the better high school teams, but everything kind of falls into place with this guy from what I've seen. I'm not going to go through the whole thing, but the day I was at practice, the guy lined up at like 8 different positions. Like, that's somebody who's just like, they look at things differently. And I said this about Cedric Baxter when he was out there in his team's huddle, when he was out with a minor hamstring injury when I was at Edgewater. And he was in there coaching the running back every play. Like, he was the coach on the team. I was like, he's a 5-star ranked running back. Most guys are chilling on the sideline. And so Nick Townsen has that same mindset, if you ask me. And those guys there's not a ton of them, but you have to find as many as you can. And if you can put a lot of those guys, if you can have 25, 30 of those guys in a locker room of 85 in college, your chances of being a really, really good team that can compete at the highest level go up exponentially, in my opinion.
The other thing I love about it is he's like, hey, there's room for both of us to succeed. I mean, that's a teammate mentality. That's a team mentality when somebody says something like that.
Yeah.
And I feel really strongly about what went on there because if you look at it, I've been doing this a long time. I don't know that I've ever heard that from a young person. Oh, who was most impressed? A guy in the same recruiting class.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? It's one thing if I was impressed by Jordan Washington, who's 2 years ahead of me or a year ahead of me, right? No. He was impressed with another guy in the same recruiting class at his position. I mean, that's a good teammate. Also, he was showing off that gold medal last 4x2 100-meter thing. So
that's teammate and competition, Bobby. I mean, by the way, for those that don't know, he was 228 pounds when I was at the school in February. February 5th, they had a mock signing day, even though him and Tanook Hines and some of those kids had already signed. They had a mock signing day in February. And he was 228 pounds then. He's 240. He gained like 12 pounds during track season, and his time's pretty much hugged at the same area. He was 21.6, not 20, 21.62 in the 200 meters. Now we know 238, 240 pounds, which is remarkable. And then on the 4x200 relay team that won state at 240 pounds in 6A in Texas. That's that's mentality, right? That's a mentality thing. And that goes to the level he competes at.
While we're talking about this and talking so highly about Nick Townsen, we should say something about Emory Winston too.
Yep.
Brandon Hewitt, Patrick Page, coaches, reporters, recruits, and teammates have all mentioned Emory Winston this spring, the tight end from Georgia. That's a true freshman. So Patrick Page, that's very astute and very true. And so if you're looking for a surprise recruit from the 2025 class, I think there may be two at this point. Or given Nick Brooks's ability, he may be a different category. But if you're looking for two, maybe it's Emory Winston and maybe Grayson Littleton as surprises, guys that weren't top 25 players in the country, on top of Nick Brooks. So, anyways, good point there, Patrick Page.
We got some good stuff to get to, but by the way, one thing I want to do on this show is if there's somebody special out there, I always want to mention them, does something special. I know Bobby didn't watch. A lot of people in the chat didn't watch. But for those that watch, Nicola Jokic is one of the best basketball players of all time. What he did last night against the Thunder in Oklahoma City in the first game of that second round of the playoffs is what special's all about. 42 points, 22 rebounds, and 6 assists. And they were down double digits for a lot of the second half of that game and ended up winning late game one. You go out and do 42, 22, and 6 assists. I mean, this has got one of the best basketball players we've ever seen. And I just want to tip my hat to that guy because he's amazing because he doesn't fit the profile of anything. He lumbers. He's not athletic. His game's below the rim.
He's Euro.
But we talk about athletic instincts all the time. His athletic instincts, his vision, his just ability to play, and everything moves slow around him. It's just some of the most impressive individual basketball, and he does it within a team, makes people better I've ever seen. He's special.
A friend of mine lives in Denver, and he goes to some Nuggets games, and he says the guy's just unreal. He said he's almost like magic, except he scores.
Yeah,
that's in a different position. He feels like he sees the court that kind of way, Jerry.
He averaged a triple-double this year. He's 6'11", 285.
That's 285 pounds. Remember, what would he have done with Manute Bol back in the day? 7'5" or whatever and 185.
I mean, he keeps improving too. It's crazy. I think he shot 41% from 3 this year and made like 185. I mean, it's just astonishing what he's doing. And you know what? Second round pick. Comes in a lot of forms and fashions, man. If you watch him warm up, you're like, eh. If you don't know who he is, if you just watch him warm up, you'll be like, eh. And then when the game starts, you're like, all right, moving on. Joe Klatt released the top 25 post-spring. Let's get it.
Yeah, that's right. What a transition there, Jerry.
Okay, that was a good talk. I agree with you about. I will say this. I agree with you, Jerry. When somebody does something that you think is special, I think that's fair game. Just like when something happens that's just fundamentally changes something, you got to mention it.
Yep. All right. Joe Klatt did release a post-spring top 25, fellas. The Longhorns, of course, come in at number 2. Penn State is the number 1 team. Ohio State, number 3. Oregon, number 4. Clemson rounds out your top 5. Then loaded with SEC teams in the top 10 as well. LSU, 7. Georgia, 8. Alabama, 9. But Texas is going to face 5 of these teams this season, including number 13, Florida. And let's see who else. Number 19, Texas A&M. Number 25, OU. Y'all's thoughts?
Number 3 and number 8, Ohio State and Georgia.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I told y'all that I had Penn State number 1 going into the year, almost immediately following this past season, because they bring back the battery. I mean, they bring back both the running backs and they bring back the quarterback. Ohio State, I mean, look at the teams that are the only other team in the top 10, I believe. 2 teams in the top 10 other than them bring back the quarterback.
Yeah.
And that is Clemson and LSU.
Yeah.
Right. And so that's a piece of it. I can't believe, is that Illinois at 10?
Yep.
Yeah.
What the
It
hell?
is. How about
That's
that?
surprising. They must bring back their quarterback too. I'm just unfamiliar with that. But
They do, and they have the substitutions down to stat.
I guess my point here is I have no problem with Penn State number 1 overall. I have no problem with Texas being anywhere from 2 to 5 going into 2025.
I think what's so interesting for me is, and we're gonna look at a Todd McShay first round mock draft, which is very interesting, by the way, next. But if you look at it, a lot of people in the chat are think LSU's too high. I think LSU's the most interesting team in this top 10 next year. And I say that because they needed to add the most from the portal on one side of the ball, defense. And they added a lot. And it's going to be interesting to see what Coach Baker does with that, how fast he can mold that together. Because they got a lot of talent out, but they just got the safety from U of H, too, who's a stud player. A Halsey, I saw him at Fort Bend Marshall, stud player, just undersized, but just athletic instincts, physical, really good player. They got a lot of parts on defense. Or if they put it all together and make it all work, I mean, they could be an improved team. It's going to be very interesting. And, this is almost a make or break. I'm not saying Brian Kelly's going to be fired, but it's almost a make or break season for him, Bobby, if he's really going to ascend. Because then he's going to go to, even though a quarterback will have starting experience in 26, Van Buren, he's still going to lose a potential first, second round pick at quarterback. They lost 4 offensive linemen. That's what's going to be interesting there. They got really good wideouts out of the portal if they're healthy. Nick Anderson's really good player if he's healthy. See what Caden Durham looks like as a sophomore. They're an interesting team to me because I think the expectation is, they won't play up there. They won't play as a top 10 team. They'll go 8-4. They brought talent in on defense, though. Now, I'm not saying they did what Ole Miss did last year, but Ole Miss missed the playoffs because the quarterback went bad. And when it mattered most. But LSU's an interesting team.
Yeah, they are. Look, a lot of people have Garrett, and we'll talk about this, Garrett Nussmeier in the top 5 in the NFL draft. I don't see that being possible. I mean, I think he's a good quarterback. I don't think he's that caliber. Maybe I'm ultimately wrong. The thing that LSU did so well is they really hit on defense in the portal. And that's going to be, I mean, what do they got? 7 starters maybe coming in on defense in the portal?
Yeah.
So Blake Baker, their defense coordinator, is going to be trying to reposition that defense. The LSU defense the last several years, for the talent level they have had, has been very bad. In fact, the guy before Baker got fired over it, And so Baker came in from Missouri last year, 1 year, did not have a great year. So we'll see if Brian Kelly gets that side of the ball right. Then I think LSU might be something to tangle with. Other thoughts on this? I will say this. If this is exactly what I was going to say, Dennis Henry, no Texas Tech. If Texas Tech does not finish in the top 25 after going on a spending spree more than anybody else in the portal. I mean, Jerry, they went haywire in the portal. I mean, really, Cody Campbell, the mega donor for Texas Tech, went absolutely haywire in the portal. If they don't finish in the top 25, I think Joey McGuire's coached his last game in Lubbock. I'll put it that way, because there's no chance they don't have a top 25 roster right now. No chance.
And essentially with this, with Joel Klatt's list, they're picked 5th in the Big 12. I don't see any way they finish 5th in the Big 12.
No,
Five Big 12 teams.
I don't see it.
Who wins the Big 12 this year? You got 5 Big 12 teams in this top 25. Who wins it?
I think it'll be Arizona State or Texas Tech.
See, I think you picked the best quarterback, and in that regard, I might go with Baylor or ASU. I mean, I think those guys are good. I think Baylor has a good quarterback in Sawyer Robertson. Just keep that in mind. Now, can Dave Aranda get out of his own way enough times? That's a good question.
Yeah. Okay, guys. Well, before we look at that Todd McShay draft here, Jerry, I'm going to let you get your glasses on and tell everyone about Gooder.
Man, starting at $25. Who wouldn't want these? Stylish sunnies, 1-year free warranty. Don't need it. 30-day free returns. You don't need that either. Lightweight and comfortable, 100% polarized. No slip, no bounce. From vibrant colors to sleek styles, there's a pair of Gooders for every personality, designed for both everyday wear and active individuals that love to run, hike, bike, and much, much more. When do you wear your Gooders sunnies? On a run, playing pickleball, playing tennis, on a hike, going to the beach. If you're LeBron James and want to talk about your knee injuries, the reason you're not playing, you can wear your Gooders around LA. I guess if you want, because they're so affordable, you don't have to worry about losing or breaking them. You can have a pair for every occasion. If you need a new pair of sunnies, Gooder is giving On Texas football listeners free shipping. You can go to gooder.com/OnTexas and use that code OnTexas for free shipping. Gooder offers a 30-day money-back guarantee and 100% satisfaction. Again, that's gooder.com/OnTexas and use code OnTexas for free shipping. The only thing they can't cure is that knee pain after you get beat in the first round of the NBA playoffs, when you kind of using that excuse as why you lost.
Oh, good stuff. All right, let me tell you about Prize Picks as well, fellas. It's the best place to turn your sports knowledge into cash. With millions of members, Prize Picks has made daily fantasy sports accessible to everyone. You just pick more or less on at least 2 players for a shot to win up to 2,000 times your cash. Run your game all season long on Prize Picks. And you can cash in on the basketball playoffs with Prize Picks as well. Don't miss your last chance to add players from your favorite team to the court on your Prize Picks lineup. Turn your playoff hot takes into tickets as well to basketball's championship series. It started with the play-in round, and it's still going. Every lineup you make on Prize Picks will enter you in the Takes Two ticket sweepstakes, which could get you and a +1 a VIP trip to the championship. And, of course, I made some picks this morning here that include Anthony Edwards having more than 5.5 assists, Steph Curry to have less than 26.5 points, and Donovan Mitchell to have more than 21.5. Now, you can also mix and match players from other sports as well. You can combine your favorite basketball players with baseball, hockey, esports, if you're into that, and a whole lot more. Now, the best part is that Prize Picks invented the flex play, which means you can still cash out even if your lineup isn't perfect. Double that money even if all your picks don't hit. So download the app today. Use code ONTexas to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Again, that's code ONTexas to get $50 instantly after that first $5 lineup. And that's Prize Picks. Run your game.
Donovan Mitchell needs a big game.
I was just going to say, what I was going to say is obviously bet the over for Nicola Jokic whenever he plays, based on your comments early.
I might have to go back and add that one in. All right, so Todd McShay has a way too early 2026 mock draft.
This is an interesting one.
It is. So Texas with 2 players on the list, and I'm going to go ahead.
Hold on, down the list. Let's go. Let's go through this real quick. So Nussmeier 1. If he plays like the number 1 pick, LSU's going to the playoffs. Caleb Downs, great player. As we go through this list, Clemson by far has the most players, 6 first-rounders, followed by Alabama with 4. If that comes to fruition for Clemson, they're going to be playing late in January, in my opinion. All right.
I did not see a number 3 pick out of Peter Woods. Some of these Clemson guys that they floor me. Like Klubnik does not floor me where he's listed. Okay. But Peter Woods going 3 overall, I mean, Texas dominated him. I mean, was Peter Wood's name called once in that game?
Maybe a couple.
They dominated him.
They ran for 300 yards.
I know. And so how is that? I just, again, these picks are very early.
Yeah.
And so you have to think about that. I also told you earlier, I don't see Nussmeier going number one ever. I mean, he's a good quarterback. Don't get me wrong. Do you look at him and say he needs to be the face of my franchise? I don't. Smaller guy, not terribly athletic. Like, I'd take Klubnik over him. I'd take Lenoris Sellers over him.
Yeah.
Right now. I'd take Drew Allar over him, even though Drew Allar is throwing some untimely interceptions. Caleb Downs, by the way, number 2. They're not going to pick a safety, number 2. I don't care how good he is. So I would disagree with McShay there. But look, you could poke all kinds of holes in these lists. But to Jerry's point, 6 guys for Clemson, clearly a talented team heading into next year. Also Alabama with 4. Do you have the rest of that list?
I do. This will be picks 9 through 16. Speaking of Clemson, they have the 9th pick there. And then for all the Cowboys fans out there, he actually has Evan Stewart.
Oh, Cowboy fans! Oh no! Wow,
that would be a bad one.
Woo. Deontay Lawson's a stud at Alabama, by the way. That guy's really, really good. Nick Harper's interesting there at South Carolina because what is he? I mean, he's fast as all get out. He's unbelievable track athlete at that size. He's gonna have to have a big year for Lenoris Sellers, who was 4, by the way. And then we're starting to get to the Texas guys.
Yeah. So this will be 17 through 24 here, and our first Texas player taken off the board at 19 to the Broncos, linebacker Anthony Hill Jr.
Jeremiah Love, I think Bobby and I both agree that guy's a first-round running back. And I think he goes higher than that personally. I think he may push up. As long as he doesn't keep hurdling and hurt himself. Anthony Hill at 19. Max Clare at 22. Texas will be going up against that guy. First game of the year, visited Texas out of the portal. Signed with Ohio State. Caden Proctor, a really talented kid at Alabama. We have one more Texas guy on this list, and I think people are going to be surprised.
All right, 25 through 32. It surprised me when you told us this in the group chat yesterday, but Texas wide receiver DeAndre Moore to the Bills at 30.
Somebody's a believer in Todd McShay's a believer in Texas development, and he's also a believer in Texas wide receivers. That's pretty. Look, I don't think it's crazy. DeAndre Moore, if he makes a big jump in year 2 starting. Nobody had Matthew Golden as a first-round pick going, and they didn't even have him as a mid-round pick going into last year. It was more like a 3rd, 4th, 5th level guy. I don't think it's crazy.
I'm going to go back to Clemson real quick. Did you see anything from Avion Terrell that told you he was a first-rounder?
A lot of flags. Antonio Williams, yes.
Yeah, I did too. Antonio, the wide receivers at Clemson loved. I love those guys.
Yeah.
I like Mekhi Lemon at USC too. Very slippery. But yeah, DeAndre Moore, we'll see. I think it's going to depend how well he runs, what kind of season he has, if he stays healthy all year. Right, Jerry? Because that was a problem this offseason. But I'm hopeful. Anthony Hill is the one that everybody kind of circles and says, yes, that's probably a first rounder. I will say he's one of only 3 linebackers or 2 linebackers in the first round.
Yeah.
And linebackers are not a heavy first round pick group. Like wide receivers, you can see right there, there's 4 wide receivers in the final 8 picks of the first round. Linebackers just don't go off the board that way.
Yeah.
So we'll see what happens. I would also say this on Max Clare, the Ohio State tight end. There was some talk that he wasn't necessarily as big as he was listed when he made his visit to Texas. So interesting to see how big he really is. Texas, I think, feels like they got the better of the end of that deal with Jack injuries. So that's where that's at right now.
Blake, go back to one and let's go through this real quick. I want to count how many SEC guys are on this list.
Can we go back to the very beginning?
Yep.
Okay.
All right, so you have Nuss, you have 1, Lenore Sellers 2. All right, next group. Harbor, Jeremy Bernard, Jamad McCoy, who's from White House, by the way, went out to Oregon State. I saw him at a track meet. 5, Deontay Lawson Jackson 7. All right. Next grouping. Falk 8, Hill 9, Proctor 10. All right. I think we're going to hit that 14 range again. Perkins 11, DeAndre Moore 12, Caleb Banks 13. I think the SEC is going to have 14 to 15 first rounders pretty much every year moving forward in the NFL draft. I don't see any way they don't. And I think there could be a year where they have 17 or 18.
I mean, look, I will say this, and this is a good way to kind of go into another discussion here, guys, if you don't mind. Obviously, the SEC and the Big Ten right now are producing the most draft picks. A silly percentage, actually.
Yes.
And nothing was more clear than this year when that happened. When the House settlement, or if the House settlement is approved, which I'm hearing there's some thought behind the scenes that may come down as soon as tomorrow, a yay or nay on that. How is that going to affect college football as a whole? Is that going to disperse some of the talent more evenly to other conferences because they're paying the same amount? Fair question, right? I mean, I don't know the answer quite yet. But is it going to take and disperse the talent away from the SEC and Big Ten and allow other schools to get in there? But we think, based on what I'm being told, that a House settlement decision of some sort may come as, I mean, I heard on Sunday and yesterday, I heard that they expected it to happen on Wednesday. Now, how do they know when a judge is going to rule? Don't get me to lying to you. But that was the general thought that I was hearing from behind the scenes. So keep your ears open for that one.
Yeah. I can say this. I mean, my prediction is I don't think, your longtime SEC programs aren't going to be told what they can.
How they can do it. And,
yeah.
I get it.
Never happened before.
Yeah. Oh, and for those that didn't see this yesterday, I posted it on the board, and I immediately locked the thread, by the way, because it could have turned political. But it was talking about the executive order that Donald Trump might make on
because of a conversation with Nick Saban.
Because of Nick Saban's conversation with him, and he said he might make an executive order surrounding NIL, et cetera. The plaintiff's attorney, Steve Berman, came out and said all that would do is just cause more confusion because you cannot make a decision about potential employment law and all this other stuff through an executive order. So the thought that some kind of executive order might bring law and order to this was nixed in that response. Now, I would say this. He also, the plaintiff's attorney also took an opportunity to take a huge swipe at Nick Saban. And the swipe at Nick Saban was this: how can you be talking about these players, limiting how much money these players can make when you yourself were the highest paid employee in the state of Alabama, made $10 million multiple years in a row, are currently making $500,000 a year just as an ambassador to the University of Alabama, and you're going to begrudge somebody else that's in the same industry, different parts of the industry, from making as much or more. And I think that the idea that somehow the coaching salaries are unsustainable, are sustainable, but the player salaries are unsustainable, to the lawyer said that kind of reeks of hypocrisy, actually, is what he said. So he took He took, you got to. I will say this: I'm not saying I agree with him, but the plaintiff's attorney took the GOAT, Nick Saban, to task, the greatest of all time. He didn't mince words. He said, "Look, that's a double standard," and that's what we've been saying all along. If the coaches can move, shouldn't the players be able to move? If the coaches can make a lot of money, shouldn't the players be able to make a lot of money?
Yes, and this is what I've what has to be.
If the ADs can make a lot of money, shouldn't the players be able to make a lot of money?
But then what has to be added to this, and I'm for the players getting paid. They have to, and I know people are trying it, but it needs to be part of this process. You know what? If you want to leave, either you have to pay a buyout or the college that's recruiting you has to pay a buyout. No different than when a coach leaves. There's a buyout clause. That's the one thing that needs to happen in this process. Because like what happened to Baylor with the Rob Wright, the point guard, to me just doesn't. That gives a really sour taste in my mouth for college, for college, where it's at right now. Again, hey, the players should be able to make money. The coaches make money. Coaches can leave, yeah, but they have buyouts. There has to be some real, not maybes. There needs to be real buyout clauses in the future in this, on all this.
We'll see. You got to put it in Texas. We're going to talk to the head of Texas One, by the way, on Thursday. Patrick Wheel Smith. They've got a charity event coming up to raise money for NIL for the University of Texas. We're going to let him promote that. Talk to him a little bit on Thursday. So we'll get deeper into this as the time goes on and as it becomes more and more evident of which way things are going to go as it relates to the House settlement. All right, Blake, Jerry, I need to do a read here, if you don't mind, for one of our key sponsors. That is Pesty. This is a service that my wife and I use here at our home. If you're tired of dealing with bugs, ants, insects of any kind around the house, nobody likes it, but using a professional service can often be more expensive than you want. That's why there's Pesty, an affordable, pet-friendly, self-service solution. Comes in a box. You get it out. There's instructions, etc. Lay it around the house. Do the different solutions. Really simple. Other pest controls company can charge over $800 per year for that. But with Pesty, you can get started at just $35 per treatment with a customized plan based on your location, the bugs, the climate, etc. Pesty is easy to use. Everything you need comes in one simple package. The kit includes a sprayer, mixing bag, gloves, and with instructions you can complete in just a short period of time. Pesty gets rid of over 100 types of bugs, from spiders and ants, roaches, scorpions, you name it. Pesty is kid and pet friendly as well. The pesticides they ship are fully registered and have been used in hospitals, schools, all over the country. Pesty also offers a 100% bug-free guarantee or your money back. If the bugs don't go away, they'll give you a full refund. Nobody likes being bugged, especially by bugs. And when they do show up, you want them gone fast. With Pesty's do-it-yourself pest control, you can protect your home easily and at a quarter of the cost and on a timely basis. You get it done when you want to. Protect your home from bugs with Pesty. Go to pesty.com/OTF. That's pesty.com/OTF for an extra 10% off your order. PESTIE.com/OTF for an extra 10% off.
Okay, well, we have some super chats that we need to get to this morning. And we discussed this yesterday, but Jay Lease, thank you for your super chat, by the way, says he missed a few shows. He wants to know, what's your take on the new quarterback and what does it mean? He says to him, it has to mean that Owens isn't ready, has a nagging injury, or could possibly be leaving, right?
Well, I don't think it means that he's leaving. At least not in the near term, because he can't go anywhere and play this year, right, Jerry? So the portal is closed. My thought process on this is, and I've been saying it almost from the outset, the guy started 5 games or 6 games last year for Troy. He's got real game time experience. He's a bigger guy, 6'4", 212. If Arch Manning were to go down, at least there is a guy that's taken a snap in a big time in a college game. Now, I know Trey Owens had 10 snaps. Yeah, 10 snaps throughout the year. But my point being, Sark doesn't like to just give people things, because then they take shortcuts, right? Trey Owens may not work as hard to be the number 2 quarterback if he's there alone. Now Trey Owens going to have to work for it. So I think the depth and experience, and then what happens if Trey Owens, or if Arch Manning goes down, and then all of a sudden Trey Owens, what happens if Trey Owens goes down? I think there's been times where Texas has been down to its possible 3rd string quarterback, and they don't want to lose KJ Lacey's red shirt, nor should they want to. And so my take on it is depth and experience, certainly. Competition for 2nd string. I mean, I think that's big. If you don't just give people a 2nd string quarterback job, you make them earn it. Like, I'll be honest, Quinn Ewers is going to have to go earn 2nd string, right, for the Miami Dolphins. You don't give it to him. And I feel very strongly that it's Sark making sure that he's going to have somebody there that's ready to go, whether that's Trey Owens or Matthew Caldwell. Either one. I don't think it talks about how does Trey earn his experience, Jackson says. He wins the number 2 job. That's how. I mean, you want to know how he does that? You win the job. You don't just be given it. Just because you apprentice doesn't mean you're ready for prime time, buddy. Got news for you. Not how it works in the real world. And so that's my opinion.
Hey, somebody's asking to chat. This is Caldwell's last year of eligibility.
That's what I was going to ask.
Yeah, he's a 1-year guy too. So this take doesn't cloud the picture of the overall quarterback path at the University of Texas. It's just a 1-year guy. So I like it a lot, actually. And I like Trey Owens a lot too, by the way. But I think it's good that he's going to have competition. Competition brings out the best in everybody. Just ask Nick Townsen. What was his thought? Good. I got to go compete. Hopefully Trey Owens takes the same path. I got to go compete.
Okay, our next super chat here comes from Jack. Jack, as always, we appreciate you. And he says, how are Texas high school coaches reacting to Sark's expanded recruiting football nationally?
I think times have really changed is what I think. Look, 15 years ago, it was a different world in recruiting. Nowadays, I mean, look, there's so many kids moving in to states, first of all, right? A lot of these kids that play for these high school programs aren't originally from the state of Texas. High school coaches, man, there's not a lot of, I would say complaining, but I don't want to sound like that's an insult, chatter when your own players are leaving the state that you coach too. So I just think things have changed. Look, as long as you win, you're good. Now, if you were going 7-5, 7-5, 6-6, then some of the coaches will be like, you better start taking the better players. These are our players from the state of Texas, right? But if you're winning, that's a totally different thing. But I just think times have really changed. I'm not sure high school coaches are as involved as they used to be, Bobby, because of NIL. You have the whole 7-on-7 world that's grown so much. I found that the high school coaches are not, and especially now due to NIL.
Yeah, they're not as provincial as
they're not nearly as involved in recruiting as they used to be. They're there when the college coaches come through. Here's our sheets. What do you want to know about these guys? We'll let you know. These guys don't want involved in the NIL recruitment of these kids. That's not what they're there for. They don't want any head coach I've talked to is like, that's their deal. I don't want to be any part of that. So I don't think there's as much input. Maybe they're just not as involved as they used to be because of NIL.
I also think they're not as provincial.
Yeah.
Anymore. Like they understand that opportunities are opportunities wherever. I will say this, back in the 60s and 70s, while the state population of Texas was growing astronomically. Okay, I don't know a time in the last 100 years where the state population wasn't growing. Now Texas has so many people. I mean, it's just, you can't, the high school students can't all go to the University of Texas anymore, much less the players. And so I think that high school coaches see it a little bit differently than they did back in the day, where it's, oh, Texas built, Texas strong, got to have, I mean, there's some level of that state pride, but thank you to seventh grade Texas history classes for everybody that grows up in the state of Texas. But my point being, I just think it's different. I think it's different nowadays than it was even 25 years ago, Jerry.
Yeah,
a lot of the guys that used to be that way have kind of moved on. So it's I don't think it's a big deal. What I do think is a big deal, however, is you don't want those coaches working against you.
Right.
And Sark does not have people working against him. Sark has treated the Texas high school coaches, brings them in, does all the right. I'm not saying he's perfect. He's not Mac Brown as it relates to chumming up with high school coaches, but he's reasonable, he's fair, he's honest, he's open with them. And that's all they're asking, is a fair shake. And he gives, in my opinion, he gives Texas high school coaches more than a fair shake.
I would also say this too, and I think this is, it's in Texas, but it's also nationwide. There's more kids transferring high school to high school nowadays. I think if you're a high school coach, you just want to keep your kids, coach that group, try to go win a state championship, go get in the playoffs, and kind of keep all the other stuff on the periphery. Like, I think there's a slippery slope if you get involved in recruiting nowadays, the recruiting of the process of your players, and you try to push, you can lose that kid nowadays a lot quicker. Yeah, he'll just transfer out. I think you have to protect your team a little bit differently nowadays too, because so many kids move around. There's a lot more kids moving around than there used to be.
And then we have a super chat here from Jerry's Jack Links. Thank you, Jerry's Jack Links. And he wants to know who is or was Sark's best hire, if you can only pick one.
I think we'll be different on this. Go ahead, Bobby.
No, I'm going Kyle Flood. He had the biggest job ahead of him when he took over, in my opinion. Doesn't mean, and I will say this, doesn't mean he didn't make more than one good hire.
Right.
But the reason I go with Kyle Flood is because I feel like that was such, and with all due respect to the fine players and people that the Texas offensive line produced over the previous 10 to 15 years, it was the biggest albatross hanging over the program generally, in my opinion. You knew Sark would, and this is my opinion, you knew Sark would take care of quarterback, which had been another albatross of sorts, right? But offensive line, I think that ultimately, and he's different than Sark too. He's got a little more gray, in his hair. And so I think that may have been his best hire. But there were certainly multiple. I mean, PK has turned out to be a tremendous hire in retrospect. So what do you think, Jerry?
Yeah, so I'm thinking encompassing all of it. I actually put Jeff Banks number one. And here's the reason I do, is Texas, from a recruiting standpoint, when Sark looked at this job, he looked at DFW and said, whoa, Texas is getting slaughtered in DFW. That cannot happen here. Jeff Banks immediately came in and started, he was huge in the Colin Simmons recruitment. It was also his idea to hire Chris Gilbert on the Texas staff.
Yeah.
And so when you think about all of it that Jeff Banks, because a lot of times, Jeff Banks, special teams coach, He has a helper at special teams coach, tight end. But and he did a lot of work in the portal too for Texas before Johnny Nansen came on board to help there. I think Jeff Banks, if you take the recruiting, what had to happen for Texas, DFW in recruiting, you think about all the great players that have come through there that are at Texas now, that those are recruitments. I mean, Colin Simmons was a must-win recruitment. Anthony Hill was a very, very much need-to-win or must-win recruitment flip from A&M when A&M had momentum. There were some huge recruitments, and Jeff Banks being at Texas, having so many ties in DFW were big in that. And then the idea to hire Chris Gilbert, I think, hammered that home in Dallas, DFW area. I think he's done a hell of a lot for the program that maybe doesn't get as much run.
How about the fact that Jeff Banks, there's no doubt that Chris Jackson and Jeff Banks, one of the reasons Chris Jackson is in Austin. You mentioned Chris Gilbert.
Yeah.
Chris Jackson has Washington State ties.
Yeah.
So I think I do think that Jeff Banks has had a larger influence on personnel decisions and recruiting decisions, as well as recruiting generally, than some other people on staff at this point.
And on a somewhat related note here, I'm going to jump down to this super chat, then we'll come back to some others. Splendid Daddy says, random question. Who took over a better roster, Strong or Sark?
That's a good question.
Sark, in my opinion.
Yeah.
I think so. I don't think there's any doubt about that. Because he had 4 NFL defensive tackles on the roster.
Yeah.
In Sweat, he had 6. Ojimo,
yeah,
as well as Coburn, and then the last 4 as well. I think that Sark had a better. He had Bijan Robinson, Roshan Johnson,
Jordan Whittington.
I mean, he probably had a better roster. But I will say this: in both instances, the problem there was the sparseness of the roster. So while he had 1 or 2 spots that looked good, like running back, like defensive tackle, the rest of it was mismatch, kind of, in between. I think is that a good way to put it?
Yeah.
Gary, it's like, yeah, a couple spots were good, but it just wasn't cohesive. It wasn't, we talk about all the time in football, it's the ultimate team sport. And so you're only as good as your weakest link. In Texas, while they had some strengths, they had some weak links, theoretically.
Okay. And then we have a super chat here from Longhorn Blood. Thank you for your super chat. What makes people higher on Ohio State wide receiver Jeremiah Smith versus Ryan Wingo? Is it his size? Is it his speed? Route running? What's your opinion?
I have not watched Jeremiah Smith as much as I've watched Ryan Wingo. Okay. But when I've seen Jeremiah Smith, he is as big, if not bigger, than Ryan Wingo physically. Like, I don't know about height, but physically.
6'3", 215.
Yeah, he has as much speed from what I saw last year. Now, how much did Ryan Wingo's eyes play a role in that? Jeremiah Smith has better one-on-one catch ability at this point. So, in other words, 50-50 balls become more like 70-30. That wasn't always the case with Ryan Wingo last year as a true freshman. But I know he's fast. I don't know how fast by comparison, right? But overall, I think it's fine. I mean, Jeremiah Smith may be one of the freakiest receivers we've seen in a long time. Just to put that out there, like he has a chance to go number 1 overall over a quarterback. Yeah, and Syracuse Smith dominates, Wingo flashes. Smith didn't dominate against Texas. I'll put that out there. But we'll see. We'll see how they progress. Wingo is one of the guys that's going to Louisiana this week with Arch Manning to work out. Blake, you put that out there. time to mention that a little bit, if you don't mind. It's my understanding, Blake, why don't you talk about what you posted on TexasFootball.com yesterday briefly, if you don't mind?
Yeah, so I was told from a source that this weekend that Arch Manning and a couple of other skill players are going to be heading out to Louisiana for a private workout session together. Of course, obviously, that includes Arch Manning, along with wide receivers DeAndre Moore, Ryan Wingo. I believe Cedric Baxter is going, tight end Jordan Washington as well. All of them are going to be heading out there. I don't know if there's anybody else, but those were the players that were mentioned to me. So I assume it's just that group. But they'll be spending a few days out in Louisiana working out, and I don't know what all that's going to entail, but definitely putting that extra work in to get a little chemistry going.
Good stuff. Like I hope I think they might be going as soon as today, tomorrow, too, from what I'm hearing. So we'll see we'll see. I just love the idea of them getting out and getting some chemistry together. That's the big piece to me. If I were DeAndre Moore and Ryan Wingo and Parker Livingstone and Emmett Mosley and Jack Endries and Jordan Washington, Spencer Shannon, I would want to spend every day I could alongside Arch Manning this offseason.
I'm interested to see how many of those guys show up at the Manning Passing Academy.
Yeah. I mean, I would love to see that. I just got to be honest.
Okay, then we have I'll tell you what, Bobby, before we get to our next super chat, I'm going to let you tell everyone about Austin Underground. I just noticed the time.
Yeah, absolutely, buddy. I appreciate it. And thank you. We also appreciate Rick Vavro and his team at Austin Underground. Since 2004, they've specialized in difficult underground commercial installations. The team's engineering background gives Austin Underground the ability to perform work other firms often consider too risky. Rick and his team offer an end-to-end client experience, including seamless communication, budgeting, staffing, and top-notch trade partners. And most importantly, they produce solid quality work each and every time. That is Austin Underground. I want to add this. Rick has been with us now almost 2 years. And without sponsors like Rick and Austin Underground, these shows wouldn't be possible. We appreciate you very much, Rick. And thank you. And guys, if you ever have need of big commercial installations underground, make sure you check out Austin Underground and their sister company, Texas Road, for large road projects as well.
Thank you, Bobby. And we do have more super chats, at least one more, I know for sure. Bixby Horn, thank you for yours. Any updates or nuggets that you can share on Michael Terry?
Now, just that Texas loves his talent, and where it all goes for him, I still think is to be determined. But they love the way he's worked. He was one of the guys, the first 5 or 6 of the freshmen, the incoming freshmen that were mentioned in the winter workouts, that was really impressing, that was doing everything and then some, that was getting some compliments from older players. So I think everything's lining up for him. Now, he came in as working out at wide receiver, as raw as you can be. He played running back. He played kind of all over the place. Total learning spring for him. So it'll be interesting to see what kind of steps he takes and where does his body go. I think so much of that's going to be determined so much of what happens with him positionally in the future. How big does he get, because he's got a frame that can add a lot of weight if they want him to. But I think he'll make a big jump from spring to August, because his head was swimming, Bobby. There was so much to learn out there for a guy who had never locked in as a wide receiver in his life. And then you're thrown out there against the talent of Texas.
I like Michael Terry from seeing him. I think that it's going to take some time to figure out who he is and what he is, and then go be excellent at it. You just don't get thrown out at receiver in college football and all of a sudden know every route, et cetera. Hey, I want to circle back to a couple things. One, somebody was mentioning, people were mentioning Torrey Becton as one of Sark's key hires. Absolutely agree. I think that was a crucial one and a great one. Personally, I think Bo Davis was a great hire for him out of the gate, because it kind of pushed together the old guard Texas as well as the deep South connections and SEC connections. So Sark has done a really fantastic job of hiring really high quality guys that have a lot of experience, and as well as a group of guys that have young. I'm interested to see how Alan Clark really goes. I mean, Kenny Baker, he kind of rolled the dice there, and that seems to be going okay for Texas as well. Sark's pretty good guy. He knows who he wants. He doesn't necessarily want the high profile assistant coach that has the big name. He wants the guys that go do. And I think that makes sense. I want to, one more thing. I want to take this because I want to dispel a myth. Okay. Strong was crippled by Patterson and the big money donors. Imagine being told your OC cost too much and you couldn't have him. That's untrue. It's categorically untrue. The problem that Strong had is he had a contract that said if there was a buyout of his contract, and this was negotiated by Strong and his attorney, that Strong had to pay the buyouts of his assistants as part of his own buyout. He could have spent as much as he wanted. He just didn't want to spend as much because he was worried about his own buyout. In other words, if Strong's buyout was $10 million and the offense coordinators would have been $2 million, Strong would have had to offset that, not the university. And so Strong didn't want to go pay it. I mean, I know that 100% fact. So don't back into that. Don't believe that. Anyways, next question. Sorry, I didn't mean. I saw that. I need it because I hate revisionist history or false narratives, and that has been a false narrative for a while that Texas didn't support Charlie Strong financially. They absolutely did. He just didn't want to go spend any of his money, in case he got fired. Right, Jerry? I mean, Jerry knows this.
He needed a different agent.
Yeah.
We got 2 more super chats before we get out of here. This first one from Splendid Daddy. Thank you again for another super chat. Any updates on CJ Baxter? Any word on his recovery?
Jerry, you saw him fairly recently, wasn't limping. But Splendid, the last thing we've heard is that he's ahead of schedule, but that doesn't mean first of the year. That means probably get back around that time and then maybe start playing 3-4 games into the season. That's on the positive side of things with a positive outlook, right? I think that's the way to put it.
Yeah. No, he looked. One of the things I said was I watched. He walked by, so knowing okay, this guy has been rehabbing his knee. I looked at him walk away, and the leg he's been rehabbing. He's all the atrophy is pretty much gone. You can tell he's building the strength back up. It's almost the same size as his healthier 100% leg. So that's always a good sign for me. The atrophy's gone. This is a long process for him. He's starting to build that muscle back. So he looked like he was well on track there. What does that mean the first time he gets hit on the knee? Nobody knows. But what I can say is 4 months ago, if you'd have seen him, there was definitely a difference in the 2 legs, in the hamstrings, the quads, the calves. There wasn't nearly as much of a difference this go round.
And our last one for today comes from Blake. I like the name. Appreciate the super chat. Who is the most high-profile recruit that most don't realize nearly signed with Texas?
Woo! I got one that nobody will think of.
Who?
What's not football?
Oh, who?
James Harden was headed to Texas until Arizona State hired his high school coach. He had privately told Texas he was coming. So they could have had James Harden on that team with DJ Augustine, Damian James, and those guys. But that was back when you could hire the high school coach. That's the only way ASU could get that one done.
That is some stuff now.
Yeah, that's crazy.
I did not realize that.
Yeah.
I did not realize that.
That is wild.
What about football? I'll have to think about that. I'll have to think about who's the most high-profile recruit that maybe Eli Manning.
Yes. If David
Eli Manning was headed to Texas until Texas got Chris Sims.
Yeah.
And David Cutcliffe almost simultaneously took the Ole Miss job. David Cutcliffe, by the way, taking the Ole Miss job is why Texas probably got Chris Sims.
Yeah.
Because Cutcliffe was the offense coordinator at Tennessee, and that kind of caused this movement and shift. So,
absolutely.
Eli Manning would be probably mine in retrospect,
Well, do I have to give out the old story?
Which one?
Andrew Luck, if he'd have got an offer from Mac.
Yeah, well, no.
Lots of coulda, shoulda. All right, guys. So that's going to do it for today's episode of Coffee and Football, presented by Rick Vavro and Austin Underground. I want to thank Pesty, Gooder, Prize Picks, and, of course, Austin Underground for sponsoring today's show. Bobby, what can people get later today right here on OTF?
Yeah, absolutely. We've got the recruiting breakdown coming. Jerry and CJ, and I think Jeff Howe may sit in as well today, talking a little bit of Longhorn football recruiting. A lot of offers that came out yesterday. We talked about that early in the show, as well as some more guys setting up official visits. And then tonight, they've got the live stream from 7 to 8. Aaron Hogan sits in as the host. Rod Babers will be with you, as well as Jeff Howe or CJ Vogel. So please join us. Also, make sure you join us on ontexasfootball.com. As news comes in, we always post that first on ontexasfootball.com.
And don't forget, if you're not a member, when you sign up, use promo code OTFOG, and you can lock in an annual subscription for just $49.95. Again, promo code OTFOG when you sign up at ontexasfootball.com. Well, we will be back same time, same place tomorrow. Hope you all have a great day and get lots of rain. Stay dry. And for Bobby Burton and Jerry Hamilton, I'm Blake Monroe, and we'll see you then.